What if Yoriichi, the strongest demon slayer in history, faced off against the fully realized Demon King Tanjiro? Both of these characters stand at the pinnacle of power within their respective domains. Yoriichi is the original master of sun breathing, the very root of all breathing styles, while Tanjiro, in this hypothetical, has ascended to become a perfect demon, immune to sunlight, unbelievably powerful, and arguably unstoppable. Could the mightiest demon ever to exist stand up to the greatest warrior who ever lived? Well, to get an idea just how far Demon King Tanjiro has come, let's recap how he gained his terrifying power. We know from the final chapters of Demon Slayer that in the fight against Muzan, Tanjiro nearly perished. Muzan, facing defeat by the sun and a vicious onslaught from Tanjiro and the remaining Hashira, pulled one last trick. He poured his own demonic blood into Tanjiro, cursing him to become a demon just moments before Muzan disintegrated under the sun's rays. To everyone's shock, once Tanjiro awakened as a demon, he was immune to sunlight. Tanjiro became the ultimate demon, possessing enhanced regeneration, shapeshifting, monstrous strength, a demonic version of the Hinokami Kagura, and absolutely no vulnerability to sunlight. The demon-slaying blades that once burned Muzan wouldn't necessarily destroy Tanjiro either, because his physiology had transcended all known demon weaknesses. Now imagine that Yoriichi Tsukikuni, the legendary sun-breathing master, who lived centuries before the events of the main story, somehow emerged to confront this newly crowned Demon King Tanjiro. Yoriichi's feats are legendary. Not only did he single-handedly corner Muzan long ago, nearly killing him in one encounter, but he also invented the sun-breathing style itself, a style from which all other breathing forms are derived. Yoriichi was born with the Demon Slayer mark already present, meaning from the moment he entered the world, he was already set apart by fate. He also had access to the transparent world, letting him see the internal composition and muscle movements of demons in battle. Even more interesting is how he fought with a calm, emotionless demeanor that belied the immense skill he possessed. This combination of raw talent, lifelong training, and unique gifts made him the single greatest demon slayer to ever walk the earth. One might guess that Yoriichi would simply blitz Demon King Tanjiro the way he did Muzan all those centuries ago, almost slicing the original Demon King into pieces, so fast Muzan scarcely had time to register what was happening. But Tanjiro's not the same demon as Muzan. In this hypothetical scenario, not only has Tanjiro inherited Muzan's full power, he's ascended beyond it by becoming immune to the sun. You might ask, does that immunity make Demon King Tanjiro unstoppable? Well, it removes the biggest built-in weakness for demons. He can walk around in daylight, he doesn't have to fear the dawn, and the bright red Nichiren blades, while still a serious threat, might not burn him to the same degree they burned Muzan. So would that mean Yoriichi is in trouble? Let's think carefully. Yoriichi's master of sun breathing was so advanced that he basically wrote the original manual on demon-slaying swordsmanship. He created forms so perfect that all future demon slayers merely inherited a fraction of that knowledge. Tanjiro was using a derivative style in the main story, the Hinokami Kagura, which is a variation of sun breathing passed down through his family. If Yoriichi invented the original style, he'd have even more advanced forms at his disposal. He might adapt on the fly, chain multiple forms together in ways never imagined, or conjure a version of the 13th form so refined it would be unrecognizable to even the best demon slayers of Tanjiro's era. It's basically the difference between a master sculptor creating an artwork from scratch and someone else trying to replicate that masterwork. Yoriichi doesn't replicate anything, he's the source. Nevertheless, the intangible advantage goes to Tanjiro's regeneration and immortality. He can heal from almost any wound in the blink of an eye, and in theory, the new Demon King Tanjiro has no known time limit on how many times he can regenerate from lethal injuries. While Yoriichi has incredible stamina for a human, he's still ultimately a mortal man with blood, bones, and muscles that can get worn down over time. Even if Yoriichi deflects, dodges, and lands critical blows, Demon King Tanjiro can keep coming back, wound after wound. Yoriichi would have to find a way to obliterate every last demonic cell in Tanjiro's body to land a truly final blow. But you might ask, could Yoriichi combine the red blade effect with something else, like wisteria poison or some sort of advanced technique that literally cuts Demon King Tanjiro on a molecular level, preventing regeneration altogether? As we know from the main story, wisteria poison can weaken a demon, but high-ranked demons can adapt to it and regenerate as though it's a mild inconvenience. Now, with Tanjiro's demon body being even more potent than Muzan's, it's reasonable to suspect that wisteria might do next to nothing. If anything, it might slow him down for a few seconds or cause fleeting pain, but not enough to lead to a decisive victory for Yoriichi. So, how do you think Yoriichi would handle a long battle? He was always calm and analytical. He might try to test Demon King Tanjiro's regeneration limits. If he can keep damaging Tanjiro faster than Tanjiro can recover, maybe he'll discover a pattern or critical vulnerability within that unstoppable demonic flesh. We saw in the main story that Muzan's body could only handle so much cumulative damage before he started losing mass and weakening. The difference is, with a demon that's immune to sunlight, time isn't Yoriichi's ally. He can't just hold out until morning the way Tanjiro and the Hashira did with Muzan. so that entire strategy is off the table. It's also worth considering that Tanjiro, even as a demon, retains not just Muzan's DNA, but also the memories and swordsmanship that he acquired as a human. He wouldn't be fighting as a mindless demon, he'd be fighting as Tanjiro Kamado, an incredibly skilled swordsman, who learned the intricacies of the Hinokami Kagura, water breathing, and all the techniques he studied along the way. Combine that with his new demon appendages, shape-shifting capabilities, and an array of potential blood demon arts, he can have something like a bone whip or possibly an advanced type of shockwave that blasts out from him every time he performs a modified sun-breathing technique. There's even the horrifying possibility that he might be able to fuse the demon arts with his swordsmanship, creating moves Yoriichi has never encountered. One might imagine an epic sequence where Yoriichi's golden eyes perceive Tanjiro's internal structure via the transparent world. He sees the demon's heart racing in multiple directions, multiple hearts or shifting organs. Every time Yoriichi aims for the kill, Tanjiro's internal organs rearrange to evade that fatal strike, something akin to how Muzan's hearts and brains danced around inside his body. Yoriichi would likely land countless near-fatal blows that slice and dice Tanjiro's form, but each time, Tanjiro regenerates. This back and forth would continue with Yoriichi's stamina draining bit by bit, and Tanjiro growing more accustomed to Yoriichi's fighting style. That's another overlooked element. Demons adapt during battles. The longer the fight drags on, the more likely Tanjiro is to learn Yoriichi's patterns. Even if Yoriichi keeps innovating new forms, Tanjiro can keep regenerating and forging counters. At some point, Yoriichi may attempt the same finishing move he tried on Muzan, combining all 13 forms of sun breathing into a single continuous loop. This technique is devastating enough to damage even the strongest demon, but unlike Muzan, who was eventually pinned down under the sun, Tanjiro would remain in the fight and could keep regenerating after each form. Unless Yoriichi truly vaporizes each cell, there's a chance Tanjiro will keep coming back. So does that mean Tanjiro is guaranteed to win? Not necessarily. There's a slight chance that Yoriichi, with his transcendent skill, might pull off the impossible. Maybe he fuses some unknown advanced technique, like a perfected 13th form, that cuts so intricately it literally disintegrates each demon cell on contact. One might think of a last resort move that merges the rhythmic repetition of the 13th form with the godlike precision that only Yoriichi has. If that slash lands cleanly, possibly while Tanjiro is momentarily vulnerable, maybe that would be enough. For instance, if Yoriichi could slice him apart at a molecular level quickly enough that the cells don't have time to regroup, he might just end the fight. But that's relying on the idea that Demon King Tanjiro doesn't possess some brand new demonic evolution that instantly counters it. What if it plays out differently? Imagine Yoriichi landing that final slash, but within moments, the demon cells adapt, reassembling into an even stronger demon. Maybe they sprout additional hearts, or Tanjiro's body spontaneously evolves to protect itself from exactly that sort of attack. Yoriichi might find himself forced into a war of attrition, which strongly favors the immortal demon. As the fight drags on, Yoriichi might tire ever so slightly. His breathing might become ragged, his arms heavier, his stance less certain. That split-second drop in stamina is all Tanjiro needs to turn the tables. Perhaps Tanjiro uses a sudden shape-shifting strike, merges a blood demon art with his sword forms, and drives a clawed hand or a blade straight through Yoriichi. That scenario is terrifying but plausible. Yoriichi is undoubtedly the best swordsman the world has ever seen, but he's still human. He can't maintain peak performance indefinitely, especially against an immortal demon that can outlast him. If Tanjiro capitalizes on that moment of weakness, he could land a fatal blow. But would Yoriichi really go down that easily? Probably not. He might notice the slight muscle twitch, or read the movement within the transparent world, and react just in time. Perhaps the real question is, how many close calls can a mortal handle against a perfect demon? It might come down to something more intangible, like Yoriichi's willpower and genius in the heat of the moment. We know Tanjiro's biggest advantage as a demon is that unstoppable regeneration plus no sun vulnerability. We also know that Yoriichi's greatest strengths are his mastery of the ultimate sword style, his Demon Slayer mark, his transparent vision, and his seemingly boundless creativity when forging new forms of sun breathing. If the fight only ends when one of them is lying dead, then logically, the immortal demon has a better shot at wearing Yoriichi down. But if Yoriichi can land that perfect strike that obliterates every cell and doesn't give Tanjiro a chance to regenerate, the fight goes to Yoriichi. So who wins in the end? It might come down to the story's narrative logic, or that intangible anime protagonist factor. Though ironically, Tanjiro is kind of the antagonist here if he's gone full Demon King. It's entirely possible the story would lean toward an incredible but tragic finale. Yoriichi, undefeated in life, stands triumphant one last time, but at the cost of his own vitality. So what do you think? Does Yoriichi have the swordsmanship to slice through demon cells at the molecular level? Or will Demon King Tanjiro's perfect immortality spell doom for even the greatest demon slayer of all time? Maybe there's something we're not even considering, like a hidden technique Yoriichi never had to use before, or a combined assault with something that subverts Tanjiro's regeneration altogether. There are countless ways to spin this hypothetical scenario, which is what makes it so fun. If you have your own theories or special moves you'd like to see Yoriichi pull off, feel free to share. So that's it for this video. If you liked it, you can now watch this other cool video that's appearing on your screen. Click on it to see. Go ahead, click!